Let's talk more about weight for a moment. It might sound trivial, but it's one of the primary ways experts differentiate between a standard copper 1980 penny and something truly unusual. Weighing your penny on a precise jeweler's scale can immediately tell you what you're dealing with. If your 1980 penny weighs 3.11 grams, it's likely a standard issue, though still collectible in pristine condition. But if you come across one that weighs closer to 2.5 grams, you might be holding an experimental piece or a rare transitional error. And these are the kinds of finds that can make headlines. One such coin, verified and authenticated by multiple grading services, is said to have fetched a private offer in excess of $800 million. The offer was never confirmed publicly, but insiders suggest that it was a hedge fund manager who made the bid, believing that rare U.S. coinage was the next alternative investment frontier. Now let's explore the coin symbol. Beyond the obvious design elements, every coin carries a symbolic weight. Abraham Lincoln, the 16th President of the United States, was placed on the penny in 1909 to commemorate the centennial of his birth. The choice was more than historical, it was cultural. Lincoln represented honesty, unity, the abolition of slavery, and perseverance. The Lincoln Memorial on the reverse, introduced in 1959, was itself symbolic of national memory and strength. From 1959 until 2008, this was the reverse design of the penny, marking it as one of the longest-running coin designs in American history. In 1980, the United States was facing political and economic turbulence. The Cold War was still in full swing, the Iran hostage crisis had shocked the world, and the economy was unstable. The penny, humble as it was, symbolized consistency and everyday American resilience. Let's talk numbers now. Over 7.4 billion pennies were minted in 1980 across three main U.S. mints, Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. The Philadelphia Mint did not use a mint mark, while the Denver Mint used a small d below the date, and the San Francisco Mint used an S. Most of the 1980 S pennies were proof coins, meaning they were struck with extra care for collectors and featured mirror-like finishes. But every so often, a mint error would occur: off-center strikes, double dies, planchet flaws, and wrong metal errors. Each of these could elevate a penny's value from 1 cent to thousands of dollars depending on the error type and grade. The most desirable versions, however, were the rare misstrikes or early transitional coins struck using zinc planchets. These anomalies escaped quality control and somehow made it into circulation, or were retained by mint insiders and later surfaced in the collector's market under mysterious circumstances. Over the decades, numismatics, the study and collection of coins, has evolved from a niche hobby into a multi-million-dollar global industry. Wealthy collectors from Dubai to Hong Kong, New York to Berlin, are constantly hunting for the next big rarity. In 2022, a 1794 flowing hair silver dollar sold for over $10 million. In 2024, an ultra-rare 1933 Double Eagle gold coin fetched over $18.9 million at auction. So what if a 1981 cent coin with the right composition, the right error, the right provenance, and authenticated rarity entered the fray? Could it truly command a price of $875 million? Some would scoff. Others believe it's only a matter of time. After all, for a certain class of ultra-high net worth investors, there is no price ceiling when it comes to owning a one-of-one historical artifact. Let's delve into the speculation further. There are whispers in underground collector communities, private vaults containing unlisted mint samples, legal disputes over provenance, coins that disappeared from government archives, or rare specimens exchanged between billionaires off the record. One such rumor involves a private collector in Switzerland who is believed to own a 1980 D Lincoln cent struck in gold instead of copper or zinc. The existence of this coin has never been confirmed, but photos have surfaced showing a coin with all the correct die markers of a 1980 D, but with a unique luster and non-magnetic properties that suggest it is made of 22-karat gold. If authentic, this coin would shatter every known coin valuation metric ever established. That could be the mysterious $875 million coin, the unicorn of U.S. pennies. And while we're on the subject of design, it's worth noting the micro details that make the 1980 penny stand out. The edges are smooth, not reeded like dimes or quarters. The relief of Lincoln's face was sharpened during this era, giving greater detail to the contours of his profile. On some 1980 pennies, faint doubling can be observed on the letters Liberty or In God We Trust. These doubling anomalies, known as double dies, can be worth hundreds or thousands depending on clarity. The coin's reddish hue can also vary dramatically based on storage. A well-preserved, uncirculated example with full red luster can be worth significantly more than a tarnished or brown version. The Professional Coin Grading Service, PCGS, and Numismatic Guarantee Company, NGC, use strict grading scales, and a single MS-70 red example from 1980 can fetch thousands, just on grade alone. So what does this mean for you? It means you could very well be sitting on a fortune without even knowing it. That old change jar in your kitchen, that dusty box in your attic, that penny you found on the street, any one of them could hold the key to a mystery still unfolding. Check the date. Feel the weight. Examine the surface. Look for mint marks. Every detail counts. And if you ever stumble across a 1980 penny that feels just a little different, lighter, brighter, double-struck, or simply strange, don't toss it aside. Have it examined. Get it graded. Protect it like a relic. Because who knows? You might just be holding the most valuable 1-cent coin ever minted, and if you're wondering how realistic it is that a coin could ever be worth $875 million, just remember, value is not fixed. Value is belief, rarity, demand, and story, all wrapped into one. In a world where digital images of cartoon apes have sold for millions and rare wines are auctioned for the price of mansions, is it really so crazy to think that a little piece of copper from 1980 could command an earth-shattering price? After all, value isn't about size, it's about significance. And for the right buyer, the right story, and the right moment, anything is possible. Including the most expensive penny the world has ever known, and that, my friends, is the story of the 1981 cent coin. Mysterious. Valuable. Overlooked. And possibly worth more than any coin in history. So next time you get a penny in change, take a closer look. That little copper disc might just change your life forever. But the journey into the enigma of the 1981 cent coin doesn't end with metallurgy, weight, or rumors of planchet anomalies. It goes much deeper, into hidden histories, archival discoveries, and theories that have circulated quietly for decades within elite numismatic circles. You see, the United States Mint has a long, complex history of experimenting with metals, striking unauthorized test coins, and making changes under immense political and economic pressure. And 1980 wasn't just any year, it was the tipping point for U.S. coinage policy, and perhaps the last breath of an era where the penny still mattered both economically and symbolically. Documents unearthed by private researchers in the early 2000s point to several internal memos exchanged between U.S. Mint directors and the Department of the Treasury during the Carter administration. These memos discussed the feasibility of adopting alternate compositions for the penny as copper prices surged. One particularly telling excerpt, which was redacted for decades, referenced unauthorized yet approved small-scale strikes for evaluation purposes, carried out at the Philadelphia and Denver mints using foreign-supplied blanks with uncertain composition profiles. Now, this may seem like bureaucratic jargon, but in coin collector circles, this is code for one thing: pattern coins. Test pieces. Experimental strikes. Coins that were never meant to circulate, never meant to be seen. Yet somehow, as history has shown us time and time again, some of these escaped. A handful of numismatists believe, and claim to have seen, 1980 pennies that not only deviate in weight but also in edge design, magnetic properties, and even coloration. One alleged specimen was said to show a brass-gold tone, strikingly similar to the Canadian cent coins of the same era, which were made using different alloys. Could it be that the U.S. Mint outsourced or experimented with blanks intended for other countries? There is precedent. In previous decades, mints around the world traded materials, dyes, and even machinery. There is also the fact that minting errors are sometimes not errors at all, but planned anomalies, intended for internal testing or future design concepts that never made it to official release. And if a few of those ended up in circulation? Well, that's the stuff million-dollar legends are made of, and we must not forget the human element. Coins are struck by machines, yes, but humans oversee every aspect of their creation, from die polishing to planchet selection, from press operation to packaging. In 1980, there were still many manual processes at the mint, and it wasn't unheard of for mint workers to retain souvenirs, especially those that had unique features or faults. These coins, often unreported, make their way into private collections and sometimes surface decades later, confusing even the most experienced grading authorities. That's why, to this day, there remain undocumented varieties of coins from every era, including the elusive 1980 penny variations. It's these rare, undocumented specimens that drive the wildest speculation around the value of this coin. The market is driven not by what is known, but by what is possible. When a coin becomes mythical, when only rumors of its existence persist, that's when its value is no longer bound by gold, copper, or zinc. It becomes legend. Collectors, private investors, even museums will pay not just for the metal, but for the mystery, the prestige, the bragging rights. Owning a $875 million coin isn't about liquidity, it's about immortality. It's about possessing the unpossessable, but even for non-error, non-transitional 1980 pennies, condition alone can elevate their value substantially. Coins graded mint state 68 or 69 by PCGS or NGC are extremely scarce. These are coins with no blemishes visible under 5x magnification. The fields, the flat areas of the coin, are reflective and spotless. The devices, the raised images like Lincoln's profile, are sharply defined. Just one perfect example of a 1980 D penny graded MS69RD has fetched over $10,000 in public auction. Now imagine that coin, but with a known error, a double die, off-metal strike, or repunched mint mark. And now imagine that coin with perfect provenance, direct from a mint employee's estate, documented by sworn affidavit, passed down through generations. Now we're entering territory where no price is too high. The psychology of rarity is something that cannot be overstated. As soon as collectors believe that there is only one, everything changes. Supply and demand become irrelevant. The buyer sets the value. In some cases, that buyer isn't even a collector, but a speculator, a hedge fund, or a private investor looking for a tax-advantaged asset class that also happens to be tangible, beautiful, and culturally significant. In 2019, a hedge fund based in Singapore added rare coin portfolios to its list of alternative assets, treating coins the same way one might treat fine wine or real estate. It's this new generation of investment, blending passion with capital, that continues to drive eye-watering valuations, and yet, the average person may still think of the penny as dead weight. Discarded. Forgotten. Left in jars, lost under couches, corroded in driveways. But among these billions of nearly worthless coins hides a microscopic fraction of historical anomalies that, when discovered, rewrite the book on coin collecting forever. And the 1980 penny has become one of the most studied, re-examined, and speculated on coins of the last 50 years. Every few months, a new YouTube video, Reddit thread, or TikTok post goes viral, claiming that a certain 1980 penny was appraised for hundreds of thousands, or even millions, of dollars. Many of these claims are exaggerated, of course, but every so often, one turns out to be true. Collectors often say that numismatics is part science, part art, and part faith. You need to know the metal compositions, the die varieties, the minting histories. But you also need to have the artist's eye for imperfections, doubling, luster, and strike quality. And above all, you need belief. Belief that the rarest finds are still out there. That you can be the one to discover them. That the next big rarity isn't locked away in a Smithsonian vault or high-security safe, it's in circulation. Or hidden in a roll of pennies from a bank. Or sitting in your kitchen drawer, waiting to be noticed, and that's where the thrill lies. That's why collectors keep searching. That's why they magnify each detail, weigh every coin, check the rim, listen to the ping, look for doubling in the date, inspect the mint mark, photograph the reverse. Because one lucky person, maybe just one, will find the unicorn. The 1981 cent coin that breaks every rule. That defies every explanation. That redefines what a penny can be, and when that coin appears, if authenticated, if verified, if supported by documentation and provenance, the sky isn't the limit, it's just the beginning. Some say the real holy grail of American coinage is a 1980 D Lincoln cent struck on a foreign planchet with a double die obverse, graded MS-70, and traced directly to a U.S. Mint employee who died under suspicious circumstances. The coin is said to reside in a European collection. Some say it doesn't exist. Others swear it does. But if it does? $875 million would be the low end. Because there are billionaires who would pay anything to own it. To possess a once-in-history artifact. The price becomes irrelevant. The story becomes priceless. So the next time you hear someone say, "It's just a penny," remember this story. Remember that in the world of rare coins, nothing is just anything. Every coin has a story. And some stories are worth more than money can buy. To truly understand why a single coin, a 1981 cent piece, could command such an unimaginable value, you have to enter the hidden world of forensic numismatics, where coins are more than currency. They are artifacts. Data sources. Keys to the past. And in the case of our mysterious 1980 penny, the layers of mystery can only be peeled back by those with the tools, training, and experience to verify the unthinkable. Because when a coin is said to be worth $875 million, there's no room for guesswork. Every gram, every micron, every chemical signature must be analyzed, documented, and cross-referenced. And even then, belief in its value is a mix of evidence, reputation, provenance, and passion. It all begins with authentication. In the modern collecting world, no rare coin is taken seriously without third-party authentication. That means submission to top-tier grading services like PCGS, NGC, or ANAX, companies that have built reputations as the gatekeepers of legitimacy. When a potentially valuable coin is submitted, it undergoes a battery of physical and visual tests. High-resolution microscopes examine the coin's surfaces for tooling marks, die deterioration, post-mint damage, or cleaning, any of which can dramatically reduce value. The weight is checked against official tolerances down to hundredths of a gram. Advanced metal analyzers, such as X-ray fluorescence spectrometers, can non-destructively determine the exact metal composition without even scratching the surface. If someone brings in a 1980 penny that is unusually light or heavy, or shows features inconsistent with standard copper alloy, red flags go up, but so does interest. Is it a zinc transitional error? A foreign planchet? A mint-made hybrid? And what if the coin exhibits doubling in the obverse inscriptions, say, "In Liberty" or "In God We Trust," but not in a pattern that matches known double die varieties? That could indicate a unique die pair, or even a previously undocumented minting anomaly. A one-of-one specimen, which would be the dream of every high-end collector and investor in the world. Authentication also relies heavily on provenance, establishing the coin's history. Where did it come from? Who owned it? Was it ever sold before, and if so, to whom? Are there photos or sales records? Was it part of a collection broken up in an estate auction, or did it come straight from circulation? Coins that emerge from long-held private collections often come with notarized letters, personal logs, or even receipts from early coin shops, documents that can validate ownership chains over decades. This kind of paper trail is especially important for a coin as controversial as a multi-million $1,980 penny. Because the more spectacular the claim, the higher the burden of proof. Once authenticated, the next step is grading. Grading is the science, and art, of assigning a coin a numerical score from 1 to 70, with 70 being a perfect, flawless example. Coins graded 60 or higher are considered mint state, meaning they show no signs of circulation wear. A 1980 penny graded MS-65 might be worth a few $100s. A MS-67? A few thousand. An MS-69? Now we're talking 5 figures or more, because the populations at that level are incredibly low. And if a coin is the single highest graded example in existence, the term top pop applies. Collectors will pay absurd premiums for a top pop coin, especially if the next best grade has multiple examples. Exclusivity drives price, and perfection magnifies it, but grading doesn't end with numbers. Coins are also classified by color, particularly copper coins. The 3 categories are brown, BN, red-brown, RB, and red, RD. RD is the most desirable and commands the highest prices, because it means the original copper luster has been preserved. This is incredibly rare for a coin over 40 years old. So a 1980 penny graded MS-69 RD, with full red luster, sharp strike, and error features? That's not just a coin. That's a phenomenon. And if such a coin also has a known provenance linked to a former U.S. Mint employee or a historic event? That's the kind of coin that starts bidding wars behind closed doors, and speaking of closed doors, most of the world's highest value coins never see public auctions. They're traded privately, quietly, in hotel suites, executive boardrooms, or by encrypted digital communication. There are dealers who specialize in 7- and 8-figure coins. They're known not just for what they sell, but who they know: ultra-wealthy collectors, foreign royalty, foundations, and speculative investment groups that include rare coins in diversified portfolios. Some of these buyers want absolute secrecy. Others crave publicity. But all of them demand authenticity, rarity, and story. That's where the real power of a coin like the 1980 penny lies. Story. Not just what the coin is, but what it represents. A bridge between eras. A secret that somehow survived time. A ghost of a decision made deep within the U.S. Mint during one of the most economically turbulent times in modern history. Imagine holding that kind of weight in your hand. A coin so rare that experts argue whether it even exists. A coin so controversial that lawsuits could be filed the moment it's revealed. A coin so potentially valuable that entire insurance policies would need to be drafted just to transport it across a city. And we haven't even explored the speculative, the fringe, the whispered lore, the coin that defies all logic. The unconfirmed rumor of a 1980 Lincoln cent struck on a silver dime planchet, complete with reverse die rotation, partial collar, and visible mint mark. A triple anomaly. The story goes that it was discovered by a coin shop owner in Arizona who vanished shortly after posting about it in an obscure newsletter. The shop was found closed, lights off. The coin never surfaced. Some say it was a hoax. Others claim the coin was confiscated by federal authorities under suspicion of theft from mint property. Still others believe it changed hands for a private sum approaching $1 billion. It sounds like a movie plot, but in the world of high-stakes coin collecting, the line between fiction and fact is thinner than a copper layer on a zinc core, and that's why collectors obsess. Why they hoard sealed penny rolls from the 1980s. Why they spend weekends scouring flea markets, pawn shops, eBay listings, and estate sales. Because the odds are astronomically low, but not zero. And that's enough. Enough to fuel a global hobby. Enough to drive academic research. Enough to send coins through $100,000 spectrometry machines and to labs where microscopic corrosion patterns are studied like ancient DNA. Because if the $875 million penny is real, the person who finds it won't just become rich. They'll become immortal in the numismatic world. There are coins that changed history. The 1933 double eagle, seized by the government. The 1794 flowing hair dollar, the first silver dollar ever struck. The 1943 copper cent, minted when all pennies were supposed to be steel. But the 1980 cent? That might be the final chapter in American coinage legends. The one that hides in plain sight. The one that could still be out there, unknown, unclaimed, ungraded, and maybe, just maybe, it's in your possession right now. When we think about value, real value, we often imagine something tangible, something universally agreed upon, something fixed. But in the strange and obsessive world of coin collecting, value can transform in the blink of an eye. One day, a coin is worth a cent. The next, it's a global obsession. History has proven this again and again, and that's why the 1980 penny has collectors and treasure hunters so captivated. Because there is precedent. Because the unlikely has already happened, multiple times. Take, for instance, the 1943 copper cent. In 1943, because of World War II, copper was needed for ammunition, so the U.S. Mint shifted all penny production to steel-coated zinc. But a few copper planchets from the previous year remained in the presses. No one noticed. They were struck accidentally, sent into circulation, and forgotten, until years later, when a teenager discovered one in pocket change. That coin now routinely sells for over $1 million. What was once an overlooked mistake became an icon of numismatic history. Then there's the 1974 aluminum cent. This was an official test by the Mint to explore cheaper alternatives to copper. About 1.5 million examples were reportedly struck in secret. But before they were released, Congress rejected the plan. All coins were supposedly destroyed, except they weren't. A few survived. One was found decades later in a deceased Mint employee's estate. Legal battles ensued. Ownership was challenged. And though that particular coin was returned to the Mint, the story became legend. Today, experts believe at least 10 examples are still unaccounted for, hidden in collections, safety deposit boxes, or unknowingly sitting in someone's old drawer. This is where the mystery of the 1980 penny deepens. Because unlike the 1943 or 1974 coins, no official record exists of any transitional or experimental strikes that year. But that doesn't mean they didn't happen. The U.S. Mint, like any large federal institution, is not immune to secrecy, loss, or internal conflict. Records have vanished. Catalogs were incomplete. Test coins have been struck under directive, destroyed by protocol, but a few, always a few, slipped through. Maybe kept as curiosities. Maybe misplaced. Maybe stolen. And in the decade since, the Mint has tightened its policies and added new security layers. But in 1980, that infrastructure didn't yet exist. There are whispers, quiet ones, about a former Mint metallurgist who reported internal sabotage during the late 70s and early 80s. He spoke about mysterious third-party suppliers, shipments of blanks with no paperwork, experimental dies tested without authorization, and low-volume production runs conducted during off-hours. He claimed that a few rogue supervisors used the Mint's machines to strike unauthorized coins for private sale. He said some of these coins were smuggled out in hollowed-out tools and even embedded in employee shoes. There's no formal proof. No court records. But the story lives on in coin forums and underground collectors' circles. And it all circles back to that year, 1980. Let's not forget that this was a time of political uncertainty and institutional upheaval. The Mint was under enormous pressure to reduce costs. Inflation was eroding purchasing power. Copper prices were volatile. The Mint was testing materials, copper-washed zinc, aluminum bronze alloys, even foreign planchets. There's a theory that a few foreign metal blanks from South America were delivered by mistake, and instead of scrapping them, someone fed them through the presses. The resulting coins? Possibly 1980 dated. Possibly Lincoln cents. Possibly lost in circulation, waiting to be found, but how would one even find such a coin? That's where modern technology comes in. We are living in a new era of coin collecting, one that fuses tradition with innovation. Collectors now use ultra-precise digital scales to the milligram. They use scanning electron microscopes to detect microdoubling invisible to the naked eye. And more recently, they've started using blockchain to digitally register ownership of rare coins. NFTs, non-fungible tokens, are being used to track the provenance of physical coins, attaching them to digital ledgers that can never be altered. It's a concept called hybrid numismatics, and it's rapidly growing. Imagine this: a verified 1980 penny anomaly is discovered. It's certified by PCGS or NGC. It's graded MS70RD, and all tests confirm it is not copper, not zinc, but a unique alloy. A never-before-seen planchet. Its weight doesn't match anything on record. It's not magnetic. It shows signs of a die clash, a rotated reverse, and strong doubling in 1980. That coin is then tokenized on the blockchain. Its ownership, transaction history, grading photos, and metallurgical report are encrypted into a permanent ledger. The digital token sells at Sotheby's for $875 million, not just for the coin, but for what it represents. History. Mystery. Legacy. Would that be the first time a coin transcended its physical form? Not even close. There are coins that sit in museums not for their metal or rarity, but because they tell stories. A coin recovered from the wreck of the SS Central America. A coin pulled from George Washington's personal collection. A coin discovered in a time capsule sealed before the Civil War. These coins become more than money. They become symbols. Evidence that we once minted beauty, precision, and ideals into metal. The 1980 cent could be the last of these relics, overlooked, unloved, underestimated, and now reborn. It's that rebirth that continues to fascinate collectors and scholars alike. Because in the story of coins, the plot never ends. There are always new discoveries. New theories. Forgotten drawers. Abandoned safes. Dealers still tell tales of customers who walked into coin shops with jars of change, asking for help identifying a coin. One of them had a 1982 D copper cent, one of only two known. It sold for 6 figures. Another had a 1969 S double die, once considered fake by experts until it was re-authenticated decades later and deemed one of the rarest of all Lincoln cents. So why not the 1980 cent? Why not your coin? If you have one, weigh it. Examine it. Look under magnification. Is there doubling? Off-center strike? Strange coloration? Weak strike details? Unusual surface texture? Compare it to known varieties online. Join collector communities. Post high-resolution images. Have it seen by an expert. Send it in for grading. The process may cost a little, but what you find could change your life forever. And even if you don't strike gold, you'll become part of something much bigger, the global search for the unknown. The modern-day treasure hunt. The quest for the impossible penny, because every day, new coins are found. Old coins are rediscovered. And myths become reality. So the next time someone drops a 1980 penny into your hand or you pull one from a dusty box of forgotten change, pause. Don't toss it aside. Don't ignore it. Weigh it. Study it. Respect it. Because maybe, just maybe, the greatest coin of all time has already been found, and maybe, just maybe, it's still out there, waiting. The deeper you fall into the mystery of the 1981 cent coin, the more impossible it seems to escape. Because it's no longer just about the metal or the date. It becomes something else entirely. A mindset. A mission. A question that never stops whispering, what if this one is different? In today's world, the tools of discovery are no longer reserved for professionals locked in archives or university labs. Technology has opened the gates. The very devices that once belonged only to metallurgists and forensic experts now fit into the hands of anyone with determination, and a small budget. A new generation of collectors is forming, one that fuses curiosity with precision. These aren't just hobbyists. These are investigators. Numismatic detectives. Everyday people building coin labs in basements, spare bedrooms, and converted garages. And with the right tools, they're rewriting the books. Start with a scale, nothing more basic, yet nothing more essential. To the gram, to the tenth of a gram, to the hundredth. If your 1980 penny doesn't weigh 3.11 grams, something is off. It might be wear. It might be corrosion. Or it might be something far more interesting, a different metal core. Then comes the loupe, the jeweler's magnifying glass. The eye learns what to look for: doubling in the letters, weakness in the strike, ghost images behind Lincoln's head, misaligned dies. It's visual forensics, and the patterns start to emerge. Next is the USB microscope, zooming into levels that reveal tool marks, die fatigue, and tiny cracks invisible to the naked eye. Then the metal analyzer, handheld XRF scanners, once thousands of dollars, now available to private collectors. Point, scan, and see: is it copper? Zinc? Tin? Is it something else? Then there's the next frontier, AI. Already, apps exist that use neural networks to identify coins with the snap of a smartphone camera. Trained on databases with millions of coin images, these apps can detect condition, composition, variety, and even possible errors. Some go further, recommending what grading service to use, estimating value, suggesting recent sale comps. The future isn't coming. It's already here. And soon, AI will evolve even further, identifying microscopic anomalies no human could see. Matching die cracks across specimens. Tracking the origin of a coin through edge comparison, surface mapping, and metallurgical signature matching across decades and mints. Imagine a global network of AI-powered databases, scanning every coin uploaded in real time. You snap a photo of your 1980 penny, and within seconds, it's cross-referenced with all known examples. A red flag pings, a metallurgical signature that doesn't match copper, doesn't match zinc. It matches nothing. And just like that, you're contacted. You're not just a collector anymore. You're the owner of something the entire world wants to see, but where would you keep such a thing? Not in a sock drawer. Not under your bed. High-value coins require security most people can't imagine. Around the world, in discrete locations, are private numismatic vaults. Places where rare coins are stored in vacuum-sealed, climate-controlled conditions. Some are in Geneva. Others in Singapore. Some attached to elite auction houses in London. Others are buried under financial districts in New York and Tokyo, protected by biometric access, 24/7 surveillance, and security teams trained like elite guards. These facilities hold coins worth more than paintings, more than cars, more than gold bars, and in at least one of these vaults, some believe, sits a coin unlike any other. Not a silver dollar. Not a gold eagle. But a penny. A 1980 penny. An unassuming copper disc that is, according to rumor, made from a planchet developed in secret under military-grade confidentiality. A coin not listed in any official record, struck in one of only 3 test runs, under night shift supervision, never meant to exist. Some say it was part of a government experiment. Some say it was smuggled out by a disgruntled technician. And some say that its very existence threatens the legal framework of what defines a legal tender coin in the United States. The coin is said to have never been photographed. It has never been sold at public auction. But its legend grows. That's the thing about legends, they don't need proof to survive. They need belief. They live in the space between fact and obsession. And nowhere is that space more fertile than in the minds of collectors. To be a coin collector isn't to merely acquire metal. It's to chase the moment. That feeling. The jolt in the spine when a coin falls into your hand and you know, instinctively, it's different. The feeling that history just shifted by 1 degree and you happen to be standing at the exact axis point. That's why collectors search through thousands of coins, endure sleepless nights, scan eBay listings at 3 a.m., travel cross-country for estate sales. Because of that one chance in a billion. Because they've heard the stories. And because they know, those stories are real. Every legendary coin was once doubted. Every $1,000,000 penny was once mistaken for trash. That 1933 double eagle, the one seized by the US government? It was almost melted down, until someone recognized its worth. That 1955 double-die cent? Once laughed off as a factory flaw, until a few collectors demanded it be taken seriously. Even the famed 1944 steel cent. It was considered a rumor for years. Now it's history. So what does it take to find the next one? Not just luck. Not just knowledge. It takes obsession. It takes a willingness to look where no one else is looking. To question what the world has accepted. To notice the tiny things. The barely visible doubling. The slightly wrong weight. The unusual toning. The anomalies that others discard. Because the impossible doesn't announce itself. It hides. Quietly. Perfectly. And it waits for someone crazy enough, curious enough, passionate enough to find it, and if you think that person couldn't be you, think again. The world's rarest coins weren't discovered by billionaires. They were found by janitors. By kids. By coin roll hunters. By retirees looking for a hobby. The line between obscurity and greatness in numismatics is often one coin wide. And it could be sitting, right now, in your change jar. That's why we keep searching. That's why this story never ends. Because somewhere out there, in a drawer, a safe, a forgotten envelope, or an old coin roll, a single 1981-cent coin still waits. Not an error. Not just a variation. But the coin. The one that was never supposed to exist. The one that holds secrets no historian has uncovered. The one that proves legends can be real. And when it's found, and one day, it won't just be the most valuable penny in the world. It'll be the most valuable story ever told in copper, zinc, or any alloy ever struck by human hands. As we enter the final layers of this journey into the extraordinary tale of the 1981-cent coin, the story transcends numismatics entirely. It becomes a study of human value itself. Because when a single coin is rumored to be worth $875 million, the first instinct is disbelief. The second? Curiosity. The third? An undeniable question: could it actually be worth more? We live in a world of impossible prices. A canvas splattered with red and blue paint sells for $300 million. A 1963 Ferrari 250 GTO auctions for $70 million. A digital NFT of a pixelated face sells for $7 million. And the coin world is not immune to these forces. In fact, it pioneered them. For centuries, collectors have paid record-setting sums for coins not just because they are rare, but because they are touchstones of civilization. Coins are currency, yes, but they are also art, documents, symbols, and relics. They survive wars. They pass through empires. They touch the hands of kings, rebels, philosophers, and ordinary people alike. So when we ask how a 1-cent coin could be worth more than a Picasso or a penthouse in Manhattan, we're asking the wrong question. The real question is, how could it not be? If it's unique. If it's authentic. If it's tied to a moment of political or monetary transition, or an experimental process buried by bureaucracy, or an error so profound it was never meant to exist, then why wouldn't someone pay anything to possess it? Economically, the ultra-wealthy already treat rare coins like assets. Just as they invest in land, private jets, and vintage watches, they also build coin portfolios. Unlike stocks, coins are non-correlated assets. Their value doesn't dip with market volatility. Unlike real estate, they're portable. Unlike gold bars, they carry history and narrative. Some coins have appreciated faster than any stock in the S&P 500. A 1794 flowing hair silver dollar sold for $10 million, over a 10,000,000x return on its face value. A 1933 double eagle sold for nearly $19 million. That coin was never officially released to the public. Sound familiar? Now let's get technical. What drives the valuation of a coin to such staggering heights? First, scarcity. If there's only one, and it's confirmed, the price ceiling evaporates. A 1980 penny that's a unique composition, a one-of-one transitional strike, with verified mint origin, becomes a global anomaly. Not just a collector's prize, but a museum-grade artifact. Second, authenticity and certification. If PCGS or NGC, backed by metallurgical and forensic data, grades and certifies the coin, it becomes undeniable. The grade, especially if it's MS68 or above, pushes the value exponentially. Third, provenance. If that coin was once part of a secret mint test, or found in a legendary collection, or tied to a known coin hoarder whose estate had a history of anomalies, that history becomes part of the price. Fourth, market psychology. If even one billionaire decides they must own it, the market shifts instantly. With no comparable sale, no valuation matrix applies. Desire replaces logic. And where desire outpaces supply, you enter the realm of the astronomical. Now consider this. The $875 million figure being floated around for the legendary 1980 penny is based on current market dynamics. But what happens if the rare coin market explodes even further? What happens when sovereign wealth funds start acquiring coins? When digital fractional ownership allows millions to invest in a single specimen, turning a coin into a global financial product? What happens when blockchain-backed proof of ownership turns ultra-rare coins into tradable assets on a global scale? Suddenly, $875 million starts to feel modest. In private circles, some collectors already whisper about a potential $1 billion coin. It won't be made of gold. It won't be encrusted with diamonds. It will be small. Simple. Unknown. The kind of coin a child might toss into a fountain. But with the right story, the right documentation, and the right timing, it could trigger the largest valuation in coin history. And who are the people capable of paying this kind of price? They are not your average collectors. They are sovereign investors. Hedge fund founders. Industrial magnates. Oil barons. Tech billionaires. And increasingly, newly wealthy individuals from rising economies where rare American coins are viewed as the ultimate foreign trophy asset. For them, owning something that no one else in the world has, something from America's minting past, tied to the legacy of Lincoln, the story of inflation, the weight of history, is beyond price. There's even a class of collectors who operate entirely in silence. Their names never appear in auction catalogs. They work through intermediaries, their coins stored in anonymous European vaults. They never display their collections. They don't insure through traditional companies. Some of them don't collect coins because of what they are, but because of what they symbolize. Survival. Uniqueness. Victory over time. For them, owning a $1 billion penny is less about money and more about power. So where does that leave us? Back where we started. Staring at a coin worth 1 cent on its face, and potentially hundreds of millions underneath. A coin so common in outward appearance, so ordinary, that it tricks the world into ignoring it. And yet, it might contain every ingredient needed to become the most valuable artifact ever struck by human machinery. And if you think that sounds ridiculous, ask yourself this: do you know every coin you've ever handled? Have you checked the weights? The magnetic responses? The edges? Have you looked under magnification? Most people haven't. Most people never will. And that's why the greatest numismatic mystery of the 21st century may still be hiding in plain sight, anonymous, ungraded, resting at the bottom of a change jar or coin roll, in a gas station drawer, in a pile of dusty pocket change under a couch cushion. Not because it was lost, but because it was never seen, and maybe, just maybe, it's waiting for the one person who finally does. Not to copper, or zinc, or mint marks, but to the one thing no microscope or spectrometer can measure: the human factor. Because in the end, this isn't just a story about a coin. It's about the people who chase it. The hands that hold it. The eyes that almost missed it. The lives that changed forever because they didn't. The world of rare coins has always been full of surprises. There's the story of a janitor at a Midwestern high school who, while helping clean out a forgotten closet, found a coffee tin filled with wheat pennies. Among them, a 1909 SVDB in mint state condition, worth over $30,000. There's the story of the teenage paperboy who used a metal detector in his backyard and unearthed a 1793 chain cent, the first large cent ever struck by the U.S. Mint. It sold at auction for more than $250,000. Or the man in Pittsburgh who, bored during the pandemic, began coin roll hunting for fun. Within weeks, he found a 1983 copper cent, a transitional error so rare, only a handful exist. It fetched nearly $18,000 online. Each of these stories has one thing in common: the finders weren't professionals. They weren't millionaires. They weren't experts. They were everyday people. People who paid attention. People who believed that the extraordinary sometimes hides in the ordinary, which brings us back to the 1980 penny. A coin so familiar, we don't even see it anymore. We toss it aside. Let it fall to the floor. Use it to balance a wobbly table leg. But in doing so, we forget what it represents. We forget that the United States once put Lincoln's face on this tiny piece of metal because he stood for something greater than currency. He stood for values. For struggle. For survival. And maybe that's why this penny won't die. Why it keeps coming back. Because like Lincoln's legacy, it's underestimated, devalued, cast aside, until the moment someone looks again, and sees the truth. Every great collector remembers the moment they stopped seeing coins as money and started seeing them as messages. Messages from the past. Messages to the future. Evidence that we once minted not just coins, but meaning. And maybe, just maybe, there's one coin left, one final message, waiting to be decoded. The 1980 cent could be that message. Maybe it's not just a coin. Maybe it's a glitch in the system. A fingerprint of an unknown process. A forgotten experiment. A secret no one ever meant to find. Maybe it's a question that has never been asked, answered only in copper and silence. Or maybe it's simply what it is, the last great American penny, hiding in plain sight, daring you to notice it, and if it exists, if the rumors are true, if the tests confirm what so many hope, then $875 million isn't the ceiling. It's the floor. Because some things go beyond price. They touch history. They enter myth. They become the stuff of legend. So maybe now, after everything you've heard, the next time you hold a penny in your hand, you'll hesitate. You'll wonder. You'll ask yourself, is this the one? Maybe you'll weigh it, look at the rim, check the color, hold it under the light, listen to the faint click as it lands on the table. Maybe you'll remember that in a world of trillions of coins, only a few ever mattered. And maybe one of them is still waiting to be found, not in a museum. Not in a vault, but in your pocket. Welcome back. Lincoln currency. Have you ever held a coin so common in your hand that you never gave it a second thought, only to later discover that the very same coin, just 1 cent, could actually be worth a fortune? Imagine this. A single penny from 1980, seemingly worthless, just copper and a bit of age, could possibly be worth up to $875 million in today's collector market. Sounds like a wild fantasy, doesn't it? But sometimes, history, rarity, material composition, minting errors, and collector frenzy can all converge to turn the most overlooked items into treasures beyond imagination. In today's video, we're going to go deep, and I mean really deep, into the story of the 1981 cent coin. We'll explore its design intricacies, its weight, the symbolic meaning behind its features, and the mysterious events that led some versions of it to explode in value in ways no one could have predicted. Grab your magnifying glass, because this isn't just a penny, it's a story of American history, metallurgy, economics, and mystery all packed into a tiny disc of copper-plated zinc. Now, the 1-cent coin minted in 1980 might seem like any other penny, but appearances can be deceiving. To the untrained eye, it looks just like the rest, Lincoln facing right, the inscriptions, "In God We Trust," above his head, "Liberty," to his left, and the date, 1980, on the lower right. On the reverse, the Lincoln Memorial stands firm, stoic, and symmetric, flanked by the inscriptions, "United States of America," and 1 cent. And beneath the grand memorial are the initials F.G., Frank Gasparro, the chief engraver who left his subtle mark on nearly every American coin from the mid-20th century onward. But despite the millions upon millions of these coins struck by the U.S. Mint, only a few are said to have the special qualities that catapult them into a completely different dimension of value. In 1980, the penny was undergoing an identity crisis. Inflation was climbing. The cost of materials, specifically copper, was rising sharply. The U.S. Mint was scrambling to find a cost-effective solution. Prior to 1982, all U.S. pennies were primarily made of 95% copper and 5% zinc. This composition gave the coin a specific weight of about 3.11 grams. It had a rich, warm hue and a durability that copper offered. But by the end of the 1970s, the intrinsic value of the copper alone began approaching, and in some cases exceeding, 1 cent. It was becoming more expensive to make a penny than the penny was worth. Something had to change, and change it did. But not all at once. And this is where the mystery begins. In 1980, all pennies were still officially minted using the copper composition. However, in recent years, numismatists have come forward with claims and discoveries of experimental or transitional planchets, those are the blank coin discs, being used. It is rumored that a small number of 1980 dated cents were mistakenly or secretly struck using the experimental zinc composition that was only officially introduced in mid-1982. These zinc-based pennies weigh only about 2.5 grams. That's nearly 20% lighter than their copper cousins. Now, here's where it gets interesting. These anomalous 1,981-cent coins, if they exist, would be among the earliest examples of a zinc penny, making them not only rare but possibly unique. And in the coin world, the combination of unique metallurgy, transitional errors, and early prototypes can drive the value into the stratosphere.